Hi everyone. We're gonna do what we do right now, right here. Happy Wednesday everyone, and if you're just joining, I am LaTanya Taylor, affectionately known as the Rev Coach, the Juicy Spirit Mama, the Priestess of Passion, and just your sister in general. And ReBirth International is the host of all of what I do here on social media and in my programs. I know that a lot of times I just get on and I start talking and sharing and pouring from my heart, not being mindful that there are new people watching all the time who have no idea who I am or what I do, but they may have been invited here or saw something that resonated with their spirit. So I'm really glad that you chose to be in this space. We consider Good Girls Gone Goddess a sacred space for women who are growing forth in Goddess. And I say growing forth in Goddess is because this is a new journey for many women. It shouldn't be new because this is ancient wisdom that we access when we start to nurture the divine feminine. And but it is new for so many women because we've been programmed to be afraid of it. So this space is a space for women who have participated in some type of part of their process, said yes to some parts of themselves that wanted to nurture their divine feminine, knew that it is a spiritual process, a sacred process, activated it in some sacred way, whether it's with me and my programs or whether it is with something else that you have started or began on your journey. And so I'm just taking a moment here to invite a few folks, and I'm not really sure how to instruct you to invite others because Facebook keeps on changing things. And you know, as you know, we're right now watching another state of emergency, not knowing that when we came on last week, holding space for what was happening in the world in Houston, that we turn right back around and see another opportunity to humble ourselves and pray. You know, the word says that if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, then I will hear from heaven and then I will heal the land. Now, you know, that scripture has a whole lot of meaning to me because I remember at a certain time, I didn't carry a regular name at the time. Some of you knew me when I was LaTanya Muhammad. And I remember when I was studying the Bible daily, yet I was walking a Muslim life for some. I don't know if some of you knew that about me. So when I talk about integration and talk about overcoming the religious exceptions in your life, it's because I have lived and continue. I live a sacred life now, but I definitely have lived a holy life. To the point of covering my head, having a specialized diet. My life for the most part has been dedicated to God. I have had my moments of experience in the world, but it really was short-lived for me. So I'm just sharing this to set the context of where I come from for those who join us every now and then or who watch these videos, because we're quick to look at women and say, who does she think she is, or where does she come from, or where does she get her information from? And we stay with the traditional sources, oftentimes not opening ourselves except for just a little bit to new sources. And so it is because I have lived this experience of transition and transformation. It's not absolutely something, a theory. I didn't just go on the internet and study something and come back and just start throwing up on you what I think I know. I honestly have gone through I am the butterfly, and that's why ReBirth International is represented by the butterfly, because my life has been a testimony, a yes-timony of metamorphosis, and I've gone through many of these metamorphoses. And so today I wanted to talk to us about this state of emergency. if you look right now, the four corners of the earth are in a state of emergency. Everybody that's coming in, that's saying hello, greetings, greetings, greetings. Thank you for taking a moment to join us. I'm going to tell you at the top before I get started that the link that I'm going to mention is absolutely at the top. But if you look, the four corners of the earth are in a state of emergency. Yeah? Have you been paying attention to not just what's happening in Texas, but what's happening in California, in Oregon, in Guam, Africa, North Korea, and now 3 hurricanes. We went to bed last night and there was one hurricane that's considered to be unprecedented. And there's not even a category above 5 for the level of destruction that they say this hurricane could bring. And I'll be honest with you, there's times when I don't know what to say. You know, the minister in me wants to comfort those who have ears to listen to what I'm saying. There's the revolutionary in me that says we better start training. We better start getting our bodies in shape. We better start getting our diets together where we can fast. A part of the reason we break down in situations in state of emergency is because we absolutely have no discipline. So that part of me, those parts of me that I just shared with you that I come from, they are all coming together now. And I feel my spirit, you know, I feel the spirit and it's not even mine so much that's rising up as I'm speaking to you, because sometimes I'm so full and my eyes are seeing so much that at times I don't know where to start. And a part of the reason, you know, I always go to what's happening in the cosmos, why I'm probably feeling so full, is because this is a Pisces full moon. You must be mindful that you are going to feel. And I think that that's by design, because we have become so numb to what's happening in our lives, because many of us are in survival mode. Well, let me tell you, for women, when we are in survival mode, and it is not the design, that is not how we're designed. Yes, we can do it because we can rise to any occasion, because we are amazing and super connected to the cosmos in this way. However, it's not the design for us to always have our adrenals exhausted like this, okay? So therefore, women require a certain type of care. And what I'm saying is I am mindful which parts of myself I bring to you, because everyone is at a different state of understanding and understanding when we talk about it. And I'm very mindful of that, even though sometimes people say that a lot of things that I say or that I post are so deep. But if what I say is so deep, then that means many of us are living at a very surface level. And if you notice, there's a lot happening that is requiring us to go deeper. And I want to give you some examples, because, you know, we started out talking about my monthly masterclass series, where we were going to talk about our relationship with our men and the divine masculine, how to you know, and I said jokingly, we're going to switch our focus this month from penis to prayer, because this is a prayer time. No one is really thinking about how to master our relationship with men, because if you don't have it mastered during a state of an emergency, you won't have it mastered in the next 30 days. But what we can do is pray. Now, prayer is something that's very precious to my heart, and I think is one of the subjects that I teach the best, besides our relationship with our feminine pulchritude, the power of the P. The spiritual components of integrating them into my life, our lives is precious to me. And I'll give you an example. I saw a video. There's a video floating around of a brother who was pulled over by the police, and he was aware of certain rights that he has as a traveler versus a driver. Some of you may see it and you may not understand what you're watching because many people don't study law. But I do. And so I understood where he was coming from. So I don't just study spiritual law and metaphysics and that type of thing. I have now begun to study what we call man's law or jurisprudence, right? And so when the police pulled him over, he began, hey everyone, thank you for saying hi when you're joining. That's love right there. So when the police pulled him over, he was quoting certain facts, certain truths, and just because there's certain laws, we assume that police know that. They're not attorneys. They don't study law. They don't study, they know some constitution. So when the police pulled this young man over, he started to quote all these things, why he did not have to give him his license, why he should not be pulled over. And he was emotional. He was out of control. If you've seen the video, just put a number 1 if you know what I'm talking about. And it went further. The police asked him to get out the car because he wouldn't produce an ID, and he just kept talking louder and louder and getting more emotional. Well, here's where I'm going with this. That thing has a lot of layers, and there are people who study law, who study redemption, sovereignty, all of that stuff, who are commenting on what was wrong and all of that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, oh, good, you saw it. You saw it, Sharonda. That's good. So one person has seen the video, you probably will see it, and you'll see all kind of opinions. That's the thing about social media. Social media has a lot of opinions, and sometimes we don't even know what we're looking at in the context. And so one of the things, did you all see the point in the video where he began to pray? And he put his head down and he started to pray. And he told his lady to pray. And you heard them praying, and the police was at the door getting louder. You could see the police radioing to backup. And at a certain point now, the other police officer is standing in front, aiming to them, and they're praying some more. And then they started to break in the window, right? And so, did you hear what he was praying, though? Did you listen to the tone of how he was praying and what he was praying? That was not prayer to me. Because see, if you are talking that kind of big talk to if you consider the police or any of what's going on, the beast, then you have to know how to work with your adversary, right? And one of them is we have to learn how to rise above emotion into the thinking of God. And what happens is, in a state of emergency, your adrenaline gets really, really high. And even as I watched with tears in my eyes what was happening to Houston, even as I watched, knowing that, I know I don't control anything in this moment. The first thing that we start to feel is powerless. When our loved ones are in trouble, we can't get to them. When we see what's happening, we understand who we really are. In fact, and I'll give another example. We were calling down to New Orleans, asking, our family, my mother-in-law in particular, do you have an exit plan? Do you have an evacuation plan? Are you going to stay? What are you going to do? We wanted to tell her what to do, but she didn't. She's not that type of energy. And so, and we're trying to see where people are going to be in New Orleans. And, it was baffling to my husband and I, because the first thing people said was, I got to go to work. I got to, again, you're in danger, but you're worried about work. I could give some other examples about that type of thing, of how deep our programs are, even in a state of emergency, right? So we see this state of emergency. I am deeply moved by it. Before I go a little bit further into prayer, I want to now go give a third area for us to consider. There's so many theories right now that's circulating about what we're seeing. You understand that there is a system called harp and woodpecker. You do need to study it. It's considered geoengineering, and there's also some other sciences that are connected to controlling the weather. Okay? Don't think that you are loved and protected by your government. In fact, you need to understand what it means to be a Fifth Amendment citizen, a 14th Amendment. You need to understand really what it means in the Constitution, because a lot of times we think that we have rights that we don't have. That was the problem with the young man on the video. You can't be talking sovereignty language but still dependent on this government or be public and using terms that make you public, but you are saying that you're private. So there's a immaturity with some people getting knowledge or wisdom from certain sources, and then you start to use high level knowledge, but you're functioning still in the condition of a slave, of a citizen, of a resident. These things have meaning. Citizens have a meaning. Resident has a meaning. To be public and to be private, all these things have a meaning. What you call yourself, when you call yourself black, when you call yourself white. So when we're being inundated with race wars, that sets off something into us. And so some people really are highly invested in race wars, and race is an illusion. It really is a game that's played on our mind, because really it's about who we are nationally. Do you know your lineage? Can you say where you're from? Really, not just North Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana. Who are you from? Where are you? When I meet a Nigerian, I can meet a Nigerian and she'll say to me, I am Yoruba. My name is, and she can tell you where she's from, what her tribe is. That is nationality. That is the truth of who we are. And so when we start to talk about, to look at how we're being bombarded, one thing after another, I got to go to work. I got to pay these bills. I got to do all, and then a state of emergency comes and it becomes a great equalizer. What are our prayers? What is our prayer tongue? If we have the prayer tongue of a beggar, it's no different than that young man who was using high-level concepts. But then the moment that the police officer started to bust in the window, he began to beg. Did y'all hear him? I'm not making fun of him, but he... Did you hear him scream? Those of you who put a 1 in it? The sister wasn't even screaming. He was doing all the huffing and puffing and talking over here in the passenger side, and she was videotaping, right? So what I'm saying is, many of us have been taught how to pray beggars' prayers because our relationship with God is an inferior, superior relationship with God. It is, I have sinned. I have missed the mark. We only have a relationship with our prayers only through when something is wrong. Come on now, talk to me. We only relate to when something is wrong. And that's when we pray. So I have a prayer call at 8 o'clock every Sunday morning that's turned into such a fellowship, 2 years strong. Maybe we're getting ready to go into our 3rd year. Dana, I can't remember. I'm losing track. And one of the things that I say on the invitation, if 8 o'clock is too early for you to get up, if it's an inconvenience for you to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and pray on Sundays, unless you're working the night shift, I want you to consider how inconvenient it is sometimes for the things that you are looking to manifest. Because when you're looking to manifest, when you're looking to pull down on the magic that we talk about, not just because we're female, not just because of who we are, we have to be consistent in accessing the supernatural realm And that can't happen only when we're in trouble. When we're in trouble, we pray prayers of beggars. When we have a slave mentality, we pray prayers of beggars. When we have a disconnection, we pray prayers of beggars because we want to get out of a situation quickly. But then we get up, we get out of the situation, and then what? We're right back into another situation because we have no prayer tongue, and prayer has an anatomy. Prayer has an anatomy. Prayer has an anatomy. You have an anatomy. The spirit realm has an anatomy. The cosmos has an anatomy. And so it is both an art and a science when we start to talk about prayer. And when a woman is in her life and looking to access the power of her pee, and even if we're talking about the power of her pussy, when a woman, you can't access the power of your pussy and you don't pray. You can't access the power of the penis and you don't pray. You can't access the power of your prosperity and you don't have a prayer tongue. You don't have a prayer habit. There is no hygiene. There's no spiritual hygiene in how you are governing yourself on the earth. It's as supernatural, as alchemical, as amazing as we are. If we do not have a prayer, and if we're too lazy to wake up in the morning, but we stay up all night long, we don't know how to pray. And who taught us how to pray? If you've been going to church, don't assume. Look, I went to church too, and I know how the old elders used to pray. I know the Lord, He heard my cry. Y'all know what I'm talking about? I went to those old churches. I went to those where the creek was in the floor. And yes, that has a meaning, but our people were in pain. And so they had to tell themselves, they had to chant. There was a chant, there was a rhythm that they got themselves into. I think I found a video somewhere where an old deacon was praying like that, and it ran all the way through me. When they sang hymns in the fields, oh my God, I feel my help coming. When they sang hymns in the fields, they sang those hymnals. They didn't sing those hymnals because they had accepted slavery. They sang those hymnals because they were sending codes to one another to say, I'm going to run tonight. I'm going to do this tonight. Those hymns meant something. So you understand, we did the best that we could with what we had at that time. But when you know better, you do better. And so, the response, I'll be honest with you, the response for the prayer has been, a little bit. When we was talking about money, everybody was all the way into the monthly class. And so what I'm saying is the monthly master class will be a teaching. I thought about doing a 30-day prayer process, but I can't charge you $29 and teach you for 30 days how to do this prayer process and especially if it's in this group, in the Good Girls Gone Goddess group. But I can teach you the monthly master series, do some trial examples of the prayer to have some teachable moments in a private space. That is why it is a strategy space. Okay, this monthly master series is about implementing strategies in our life that we talk about on these little free supplemental spaces. Now, if you don't have $29 to invest in yourself, I'm sorry, but this is an opportunity for us to steal away from those who just watch. And I understand watching is important, but what happens is we have to invest something in order to access. Let me tell you what I mean by that. There was some spiritual work that I needed to get done directly related to the ancestors. And I did it. I was not expecting the offering that I had to make to be what it was. But I had literally delayed and delayed for 3 years. But it was so necessary for me to go to the next level of what it is that because when you're helping a lot of people, when your spirit is always open like this, your heart is always open like this, you're absorbing a lot of energy. And that is why teachers, spiritual teachers, or spiritual representatives who don't do any type of spiritual work, they don't have an elder, they don't have a check-in place somewhere, are dangerous. If they don't have a coach, if they're not in some type of process, they're dangerous. And so that's why you don't see me jumping in all the goddess circles, because I've seen that dangerous stuff. I've seen people speak universal law principles, like the law of attraction, like the law of correspondence, to people who've been raped, and tell them that they created it as a response. You don't do that. And I've seen people who have been in abusive situations, and they tell them, they just throw out something that they heard online, read on Google or whatever, and then you don't understand the psychology of trauma, or the psychology of emergency, right? And so I am very intentional about where I release, because listen, sisters, there are some things that are for the public, just like that brother in that car. And there are some things that are for the private. And women, it is important for women to have spaces to go in to do your work. Now, a lot of times, let me show you, a lot of times when you come together, y'all, some of you all who watching, and you have not tapped into your divine feminine, you may go and tell your girlfriend's business to men. That's something that we don't do. When we come together, there is a prayerful space that is created when it's sacred, when we see who we really are in divinity. And yes, pleasure and pussy power and penis power and all that stuff matters, and it has a role. And I never will separate them as if they don't work together. However, spiritual immaturity is very dangerous, and it alone is creating the state of emergency that we see, because our thoughts become things. Come on, I'm going to say that again. Our thoughts become things. Many of us have been programmed with the old hell and damnation religion. We have been programmed to think about the last days, that it's going to be fire and brimstone, that Jesus is coming back. And then when Jesus comes back, are we prepared to have our third eye open to recognize, if you really believe that, right? We've been programmed that, we better get right. We better get on that get right so we can go to heaven, right? Go to heaven. That's what many of us have been programmed with that. And I'm not being disrespectful, but it's time for us to grow up. We want to play in the realm of the metaphysical and the universal, and then go back over and do the same old thing, the same old way. So we got to run. We want to run and shout and because we're afraid, and no, it's not that. We got to know how to get silent too, and to go within, and how to pray our way through, not just out loud, but when we begin to go deeper into the space, that our beingness becomes a living prayer, and that we use the words purposefully, and that we know how to place them. And the more that I learn the ancient traditions, there's a protocol to everything. There's a protocol to what color you wear. It's a protocol to what foods you prepare for the deities, or for what energies. Listen, right now, if you are anywhere near Florida, or if you are, someone who may be, if you're not evacuated, now I understand that they want the whole entire the Florida Keys to evacuate. They've already showed the highways. They are full. You can set out a plate or an offering for. Don't you understand that there's an energy that governs? Okay, sorry. Okay. There's an energy that governs nature like this. And so we haven't been taught how to do that. And so when we see something that says, let it come nigh my dwelling, see, we got to understand what that means. Let it come nigh my dwelling. And it doesn't mean that you are necessarily exempt. There's offerings that you can do. Today is a full moon. Many of us are full. There are things that we can do to begin to break certain energies off of us. But if you don't know how to pair it up with your prayers, and many of us won't even say affirmations in the mirror. We don't have an affirmation posted in our car, on our desk, in our wallet, on the refrigerator, because we're afraid of what someone will think in our own household, much less at work. So now, what is that? What is that in our mind that keeps us afraid of these spiritual things? Because so many of us have heard that this is witchcraft. It's witchcraft to do. If it ain't Jesus, I don't want it. That's what we've been taught. And we don't investigate. We don't ask why. I was at another ceremony and someone said to me, baby, don't ask no questions. That's somebody I don't ever want to have a conversation with again. I'll be okay if we don't ever talk again. Because that mindset is the mindset that keeps us enslaved, that keeps us in trauma. Don't ask any questions when it comes to spiritual things. So what I'm saying is, I'm going to give you some rituals before I close out that we can do for this full moon. But if you know someone who, like for instance, if you have a balcony or a deck, you can cut up purple eggplant, some water, if it's possible, a candle or any plums, and make an offering to the energy of Oya. Now listen, you don't have to understand all of that, but you know that there is an energy and a force in nature called a hurricane, right? There's so many theories out there. I was talking about the man-made weather theory, but there's also those who study the spirituality of the weather and where they originate from and the path that they take, and that many of them take the path of the transatlantic slave trade. Allegedly, because even that slave story is a myth. If you got children going to school learning that we were brought over here from Africa, you better try to help deprogram them from that Christopher Columbus teaching, because when Christopher Columbus came here, there were already natives, indigenous people here that were high functioning. Those mounds that are in Mississippi, Georgia, that are in Alabama, that run all the way up to California, and if you're driving, you think you're looking at mountains, those are pyramids. They're called the mound. They were called the mound people, the Washita people. Okay, you can research it, check it out for yourself. You got to deprogram the babies as we deprogram ourselves. So they study the weather. So no, at this point, it doesn't matter whether it's man-made, whether it is ancestors that are traveling, whether it's just hurricane season. Whatever it is, it has happened since this Nat Turner eclipse. The earth, there has been a shift on the earth. Would you agree? Can you agree that there's a shift? If you look in your life, has there been some things that have shifted? Now, the good news is, a lot of times when we're being bombarded with this kind of thing, we don't necessarily have emotional space to recognize that there's also some magical, beautiful, accelerated, advanced blessings happen as well. The Google, my answer to that is Google. And there are some things that are happening. I have seen, this is a quantum season period. That eclipse ushered us in, the Lion's Gate, all of those things. Go look at my old videos where I was talking about the energy. And do you think it's an accident that I'm coming in here now on a Wednesday that's governed by the energy of Mercury? That's what Wednesday means. Look, let me break this down real quick. Those of you who still on that witchcraft foolishness. What do you think your days of the week is? Monday is Moon Day. Tuesday comes from the origin of Mars. Martians, Mars Day. Come on now, we're talking about this witchcraft thing. Wednesday, when you study the meaning of Wednesday, goes to Mercury. It comes from the Spanish. When you look at the Spanish, you can even see it, right? Well, you can burn the candle. I'll talk about the candle in a minute, but you put these things outside, okay? Thursday is Jupiter's day. It's the day of expansion. Friday is Venus's day, right? So then there's Saturday, Saturn's day. This is the day of discipline. This is Sunday, the sun. What do you call Jesus? The Son of God. Y'all think that's an accident? No, but it's because it's been broken down, just like the Bible has been broken down and pulled apart and re-languaged. So has everything else. And so we have to become studiers. Now, don't just be believers of the word. You got to study the word. You got to study and show yourself approved. But you don't just study with the dictionary that the people who programmed you gave you. You got to go and study into things beyond that. You got to go into and break down the origins of what these things come from. And so stop calling things witchcraft when the biggest amount of witchcraft has been practiced right there in the church. And they use Psalms and scriptures to do it. You got to know, because you may think that somebody is praying for you and they are praying on you. You understand? There's a difference between P-R-A-Y and P-R-E-Y. And some of us will go and get prayed upon and have our spirit all open. See, everybody can't pray for me. That's okay. I'll pass. I don't want you to pray for me, because I don't want you to pray the prayer of a victim for me. If I'm sick in my sick bed, I want you to pray wholeness. I want you to pray divine order. I want you to pray that thy will be done. Not just, don't pray to keep me here and thy will be done is for me to go away. You understand? Many of us get into our emotions. But let me close with this. Let me close with this state of emergency, because we're going to start the prayer process with bit.ly/MyGspot. We have those classes the third. Yeah, don't put your hands on me, BB said. On the third Thursday of every month. But I'm going to close with this state of emergency. This is a quantum season. If you notice, a lot of the things that we've been seeing have been lined up. Full moons, new moons, eclipses, all of these things. Every time we come together in this space, something cosmic is going on. This is also a quantum season where things are manifesting very quickly. So if you are praying a prayer of worry, of anxiety, of fear, then those things are going to manifest much quicker. And so when there's a universal law, I posted this early. Many of us want to access the universal law that helps us get what we want quickly. That's why people are so in love with the law of attraction. But the law of attraction will work. But if your ego has not been healed, and the ego, there's a place even for the ego in our process, you will continue to attract good and then cancel it. Attract great and then cancel it. Because there's another law called the law of elimination. Many people don't talk about the law of elimination. When you see Mother Nature going to do her things, and you will hear Ayana talk about this on the Sunday prayer call. Place a number 2 in the comments if you would like to hear the prayer call, or yeah, because it's posted, the link is posted in this group, but I'm also going to send it out to those who are on the list, because it was that powerful. If you heard what Monique shared about her journey, you heard that sometimes there are going to be casualties along the way. Listen, y'all, check this out. You may think that the relationship, the divorce, the child, the abortion, the child support that you're not getting, you may think that it has caused devastation in your life. It may have shown up in your life like a natural disaster. But guess what? Sometimes those things need to be eliminated from us. And when we don't have the good sense to rise up and do it for ourselves, our own inner earth will stir up our winds and send us the energy of a hurricane. Study the word. It's spelled H-U-R. But if you study etymology, what you understand is any word that sounds alike oftentimes has the same origin. It has been given different meaning. So it's a hurricane that we call Mother Earth Mother. We call her the Earth Mother. We talk about her in feminine terms because there has to be something that penetrates her soul in order for her to give life. The water and the earth work together. Come on now. And so when we study the meaning, we go look at the etymology of a hurricane. It is very feminine in nature. This particular one is called Irma. And she is known as the goddess of war. Come on now. They're telling you, they're saying, when you see these things, note it down. So now you know how to pray. Now you know how to direct your energy. And what happens is when we're talking about the law of elimination, right? When we talk about hurricanes, I used to hear Minister Farrakhan say that, and I'm using theological terms that I don't necessarily line up with, but I'm just going to give you the example. He said that Allah is not pleased whenever a woman cries because she's that precious in the eyes of the divine. That even when a woman cries, that the divine is not happy. As a woman, it is important for you to understand women's history and what has happened to women, particularly melanated indigenous women who have been raped and betrayed and stolen and subjugated over and over again. And let's not go just to the white man. We have to look at the relationship that we see between the black man and the black woman, that there is some atonement and accountability because we were betrayed by our own. That is in our history. Now I'm not going to stop there because the feminists stopped there. I want to go further into the cosmos because as women, there are some things where we betrayed ourselves. And so this is why many of us have to come back into ourselves, forgive ourselves, heal ourselves, trust ourselves, activate ourselves, and then realign our divine feminine with nature. The things that we have been taught to fear are the very things that hold so much power for us. And your prayer is your language. It's how you communicate with God. And so it's not just, and not God up there, not God out there, not God over there, but God in here, the holy I am, the holy I am. And so when I pray a prayer, I don't care what it is. You know, the other day, this song has been working through me. When I sing gospel songs, I'll leave you with this. When I sing gospel songs, I don't be singing outside. Won't he do it? Won't he do it? Who? I affirm the I amness, the infinite intelligence that I am one with. When you all hear me begin a prayer that says, Mother, Father, God, Holy Spirit, I'm uniting all three, the Trinity, right there. Mother, Father, God. Do you understand what I'm doing? Not because I'm a witch. But my point is that there's anatomy to prayer. I would like to invite you to join the space. I'm going to start teaching for those who are already in the subscription space, called the G-Force. Those of you who are you who are in Succulent Success, you already have access to it. I would like for those who are interested and new to start coming in now, and I always do a build up before we get to our third Thursday of the month, so that when we get the strategy, you've already got more supplements. So if you want more than just Wednesdays and you want to build up, it really does require that. Listen, some of the things I'm giving to you, I've had to study for years and practice for years. That's why people who want to just come and duplicate it and stand up and say, I'm just going to do what she's doing because I make it look easy. But when you study, you have to repeat. Repetition is the mother of mastery. And then what happens is you make a lot of mistakes along the way. And I've been taught by elders. I know for a fact now, there's something that has shifted. I remember where there was a time where I used to be, I believe, help my unbelief. I used to be in that space. I believe, but then there would be things that I would do and that didn't show up like my belief. Some of the decisions I would make and the worry that because I'm prone to worry because I'm a natural nurturer and mother energy. And so I do see many things like my children. I do stick my nose into the business. I do go the extra mile, the way that a mother would go for my clients, for people that I love in my life. I've had to learn how to adjust that. I've had to learn how to be a businesswoman and not just a pastor. I have seen some things happen that I just can't make up. And some of that is on that yes-testimony, on the testimony that Monique and Ayana gave. That's one thing. But there have been so many other situations. I cannot make this stuff up. But when you start to live that life on and on, over and over again, it starts to become just your normal, a new normal. So I'm inviting you ladies to create a new normal for your household, for your body, your mind, your spirit, for your temple, so that when these things begin to happen, it is my prayer, y'all. Prayer took me on this journey to the divine feminine. My life, I had desires, unmet desires that kept showing up. I kept praying the same old beg and crying prayers, even sometimes as a metaphysician. I found myself praying about a job over and over again, praying about my salary over and over again, until I got sick of hearing myself praying that prayer. And I'll talk more about that next week. But I was like, I'm sick of saying it's time for me to do a new thing. And I just started to go deeper and get totally naked and transparent in my prayers. And when they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, the things that I needed, I didn't have to go out and go searching for. It came to me. I'm telling you, everything that you are seeking, it is seeking you. You have to know that. If you don't believe that, borrow my faith. Borrow the faith of your sisters. And if you have a testimony, drop it in the comments. Please drop it in the comments. Let it be, see it as your tithe and offering. When you share in spaces like this, you think it is for you because it's a power in being witnessed. But there's another power that happens amongst women that when we are able to release it, that others get blessed because you give them permission to heal. You give them permission to grow. You give them permission to ask the questions that they've been programmed are forbidden or are ungodly or won't be blessed if they pursue it. So just know, y'all, yes, everything you are seeking is seeking you. But we cancel it with our disbelief. We cancel it with our control freakism. We cancel it over and over again when you get up from your prayers and then you go worry about it and picking around it, picking the scab off. You understand? I'm trying to control myself over here because this is a thing. How many of you have, you don't have to answer this. There are some of you who have spiritual sight, and you know that when I stand up, when something stands up in me, that I'm not standing alone. I feel the presence of those ancestors standing with me. When those tears come or when I release in this space, it's not because something is wrong. It is because I feel that energy. When I tell y'all I'm getting hot. But I'm going to go through and check out some of the questions that you asked because I said that I would answer them. I saw one question was, where do we start to get it? If you all ever hear me say keywords, ask me those kind of questions and either I'll post about it. If there's a file section in Good Girls Gone Goddess that I started posting a lot, and then because people have become so lazy in these groups, I stopped posting all this the information, and I started to give more of it to my clients. But you can Google some of these things, but I will be careful with Google because you always have to consider the source. And there are people who start to try to misrepresent ancient wisdom because they don't want you to know. That's not a conspiracy theory. And I've had to learn that. Even listen, one of the sisters in here, Kelly, you may be watching, Kelly Jean, she was reminding me, I had forgotten how as innocent as A Course in Miracles can seem. I'm going to give you an example. A Course in Miracles was used by the CIA for mind control. So you got to be careful. Just because it's love and light, it's not always something. So don't be afraid, but use your discernment. Okay. All right. So I hope I answered that question. BB says, yes, race is a social construct. We teach about that in the Money Charm. Okay. I'm looking for the questions. I'm going back through. I love these comments. Y'all I was talking up in here. Okay. So I hope I answered where to find this info. Somebody asked another question. I'm looking, I'm scrolling. I love that Ayana said, my dad taught me as a 5%er back in the day, and we thought he was crazy. Now I see. How about that? We tend to think that people who don't sound like the conformed language, that they're crazy, they're off. Oh, that's too deep. I don't want to deal with that. And you say, now I see. That's a good teaching right there, Ayana. I might have to have you come back for a part 2. Araceli said, yes, pray wholeness on me. Yes. Don't go talking about the cancer that nobody needs you to pray up their cancer, to amplify the fibroids. No, speak to the walls of your uterus. Whew, don't get me started on that. Okay. Let me go back. Okay. Let me go forward. Yes, the goddess of war, Irma. Go study who the goddess Irma is, but it's not spelled. Remember, in etymology, they will change the spelling of a word, but so you look up E-R-M-A, not I-R-M-A. The tricknology is really a science, y'all. You got to understand marketing. In order to mind control, usually it's done through advertising and ads, and that's a science. That's a psychology. We study this in school, the psychology of marketing. I did a dissertation on. That's something I really need to publish. Anybody want to help me publish all these books that I've started writing? Lord Tisha, don't even. I know I'm out of order. I need to get you my draft. Okay. All right. So I'm going through the comments, Ayana says, thank you for the transparency. When the teacher is ready, the student will appear. That's good. Everything you're seeking, is seeking you. Niami says, you have helped us reclaim our time. Ashe, 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 ashe. You talk to us about amen and ashe. Okay, can I do that on another video because it's getting so long? This is what I will do. I will answer that question in the Juicy Spirit process, and I'll also come back next week and talk about the difference between Amen and Ashe. Yeah, don't worry about that. We'll talk about that, Monique, as far as the Course in Miracles. Yes, your son is a 5%er. Yep. And see, 5%ers only deal with 5%, but the importance is to do it with 360 degrees. The question is, what is the intense feeling and inclination to shelter in place? Not in the physical though. Like I just want to unplug, separate, disconnect. What is this energy? Okay. So that this is what I see. I want to shelter in place too. Do you know that every time it's time for me to come and teach on Wednesdays, there's a part of me that wants to just be quiet. I know that I'm verbose. But I can feel the weight and the heaviness sometimes of what it is that I'm sharing in these spaces. And there's a part of me that just says, I don't feel like it. I don't want to deal with it, because when you start to awaken, you start to understand more and more how important it is to govern yourself accordingly, to govern yourself. Many of us are so outwardly focused. Depending on your astrology sign, that can have a lot to do with it. There can be some particular influences in your chart that makes you want to go within, whereas your normal may be a normal where you're giving outwardly. There are some particular astrological influences that makes us want to go in deeper. But that is the energy where we have to use discernment and not cast our pearls among swine. One of the reasons you don't see me I could be teaching about any topic at any time on my regular page. I feel like sometimes social media is a swine pit. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody, and it could be wrong as, it could just, and I do mean wrong, like not factual, but the cowardice that is supported in social media is just ridiculously sickening. And so and because I'm an empath, and because I can feel my spiritual gift and my spiritual anointing first comes through feeling, and then I have the gift of sight and hearing. And most of us, we all have these gifts amplified at different times. And so self-protection is it's the first response for those of us who have these spiritual gifts. Your prayer language, your rituals, your process, all of that matters, so you don't feel the need to protect. You can feel protected because you've covered yourself appropriately. And so what I have to do is to do that. And so when I feel a certain thing, a lot of times when I come in here, I plan to come in and do 20 minutes. I promise you I do. But then something else happens. And I tell you, I started doing lives a long time ago when I was teaching the Orgasmic Abundance. I was doing them every day. And I would tell Sabira, I would say, I don't know how you do this every day, because I can feel the vampire energy sucking on my energy field. And I would be exhausted, even when I go to church. And yes, I do go to church, for those of y'all who think, because I've been spiritually multilingual for years. You understand? Not just because I want to be, because I took a course. I've been spiritually multilingual because my life has been a life of spiritual relanguaging and learning. And so when I go to church, sometimes if I get a little good shout in, I don't know how people get up and go out to dinner and laughing and ha ha ha, key, all of that. Something happens for me. And I'm white. So when I teach on Sundays, sometimes I have to go. And so, you know, I was talking to Yamla about this actually. And so I'm sharing with you that there's, when I come with so much passion about us and our self-care and us getting in spaces where we can maintain this, some of y'all are just so inconsistent. You go away, you come, you get your fix like you get at church, and then you go away, and then you come back, or you don't come back at all. And so what I'm saying is, it requires some more of thee. If I told you what I required of thee, would you still say yes? Your yes births other yeses, other calls. And when you begin to say yes to the divinity, to the anointing on your life as the priestess of your household, you have to up your spiritual game and sometimes decrease even your physical game. You understand? Yes, pleasure requires discipline. Not just the spiritual things require discipline. Joy requires discipline. Good health, healthy orgasms, they require discipline. But many of us are undisciplined and spiritually mature. And so I hope that answered your question. So it's been a joy sharing with you. I hope you will join us in the I call it the G-Force. It is our membership suite subscription for us to come in and create strategies every month in small doses. Even if you think that you know everything, it's okay to come in and have a reminder and to be in community and in fellowship. And so come on and join us in bit.ly/MyGspot and subscribe. It's a monthly subscription. It's only a nominal amount. Nothing that I offer costs $29. So it's a way for us to keep the party going. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I love you because you are worthy to be loved, and I love you because you are lovable. Ciao.